Welcome to the Commercial Real Estate Show, your source for insightful analysis and enlightening discussions. I'm Michael Bull. Thanks for being with us today. Well, our topic today is the film industry, tax credits, and real estate. We have some special guests joining us here in Studio One. Please welcome Lee Thomas. She is Deputy Commissioner of the Georgia Department of Economic Development. Lee, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Michael. Happy to be here.
We appreciate you being here. And please welcome John Raleigh. John is VP of Raleigh Property Partners. John, thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having us.
Well, you guys have been on the circuit talking about this, and it's an exciting discussion point, I think, for commercial real estate show and taxpayers everywhere and people who watch the movies, right? So this is a fun conversation to have. And Lee, to get us started, just how big is the film industry and that business around the country? What's the economic impact?
Well, according to the MPAA numbers, and that's the Motion Picture Association of America, it's a $40 billion industry in the United States, and it supports 1.9 million jobs in the United States. So it's big business.
It's a few jobs. And what is the economic impact of a movie being produced in a city?
You know, it's widespread. I mean, it can have tremendous impact. And we see, you know, there's not only the direct spend of a project going into an area, but also, you know, the film tourism. If a show is in your town or city, it can mean tourism for years to come. So it's widespread, and it goes on for years and years.
So that means we're going to have a lot of Walking Dead around Atlanta, people visiting.
You know, I mean, Dukes of Hazzard, which shot in Georgia, you know, 5 episodes in 1979, is still the biggest draw for Newton County. So, you know, that's been a long time and just a few episodes. So, yeah, you never know what the impact's going to be.
Yeah, and now my car has an excellent right on the top on the roof. So. Well, tell us about tax credits, because, you know, that's a way that municipalities, the states rather, I guess, are attracting the film industry. Tell us how the tax credits work in the film industry.
Sure. I mean, you know, late in the 1990s, Canada started a very aggressive tax incentive program, and it started really taking the business away from the United States. So Louisiana started a tax credit program in 2003, and a lot of the other states have started programs as well. Some states have tax credits. Some states have rebates where you actually get a check back. And the difference is, you know, with a tax credit, you need to have income tax liability in the state. A lot of the companies that, you know, may come to Georgia to shoot a film, they may not have income tax liability. So they can go through a broker and they can find, you know, high net worth individuals and sell the tax credits to them. If you have a, you know, rebate state, you can just get a check back, but there is a fund. There's a certain amount of money that they allocate for the film industry, and once that's gone, that's the end of the shows for the year. Okay,
so if I'm a taxpayer, how can I find these tax credits to acquire?
Well, there's a thing called the Association of Film Commissioners International. It's AFCI, and every state has a film commission, a state film commission. So you can go to their website and find out what is in your state and what your state offers, and, you know, how your program works, and maybe where, you know, what brokers are out there that you can buy tax credits from.
Yeah, and I've bought tax credits, and I think they're a great way because, you know, this isn't a write-off, this is a credit. You know, this is a pretty nice opportunity. Well, tell us about the savings that if you're doing a TV show or you're filming a movie, what kind of savings do these production companies get out of these tax credits?
Well, they're different in depending on what state you're in. And Georgia has one of the most competitive programs, and you get a 30% tax credit for your qualified in-state spend in the state of Georgia. So, you know, once you sell that to a company, you wind up with about 90 cents on the dollar. So it's great business. So if you have $1 million film and you earn a $300,000 tax credit, you'll probably walk out of the door with like $270,000.
That's big money.
It is big money. So it's been a huge driver. I mean, you know, I started at the office 18 years ago. It used to be all driven by locations, but now it is, you know, the accounting departments of the major studios run budgets, and they'll tell the production you're going to go to one of these states that have these aggressive tax incentive programs.
Okay, and you mentioned the 90% discount of the production company selling them. So how does that impact me as a taxpayer? Walk me through that.
Sure. I mean, if you're a taxpayer and you owe, you know, $1 million, then you could use one of these tax credits, and you would end up, you know, owing $900,000. So typically a broker, they will take a penny.
And how do you know
or
my
so.
my tax bracket? I mean,
Yeah, so you would, a broker usually take a penny or two in there. You can sell them directly, and we have a lot of times it's corporations now that buy them, and the same corporations buy them over and over again, and they're really chasing the tax credits. It's a very strong program because it's easy. I mean, you either pay $1 million, or you pay $900,000. Most people understand the math with that, and it's an easy program, straightforward, and.
Okay. What about risk for the taxpayer? I guess everyone's concerned with the IRS that they're doing something that might be called into question, right? Are there any risk associated with buying these tax credits?
Again, it's going to depend on what state you're in and whether, what the recapture laws are. For instance, in the state of Georgia, you can get an audit done by the Department of Revenue, which indemnifies any buyer from having their tax credits recaptured. So once you have that letter from the Department of Revenue and you use these tax credits against your income tax liability, you don't have to worry at all.
And who gets that letter of recommendation, if you will? Is that the production company or the broker selling the?
Yeah, it would be the production company. Like
Okay.
if you went and bought tax credits from Disney, Disney would go to the Department of Revenue after they have made a movie in Georgia. They would the Department of Revenue would do an audit on them, and then they would, have a letter that said, this is how many tax credits we earned. And so then Disney would transfer the credits to you, and you would use them on your income tax return.
Okay. Now, these discounts of like 10% basically on tax credits, but you can really get a bigger discount, right, on conservation easements, John. So is there a difference in the risk level there?
Yeah, well, there is. Here in Georgia, I think Colorado changed some of their conservation easement rules, but prior to 2014, placing an easement on a piece of property, you didn't really necessarily have to go through an audit process like you do in the film commission or the film credit. In 2014, they changed that rule so where each conservation easement has to go through and get approved by the State Property Commission. Far more scrutiny is involved. Prior to 2014, they were selling at 50 cents on the dollar, but because of the similar type program that more or less audits a conservation easement, that 50 cents on the dollar is now turned more towards 85 and 90 cents of the dollar because it's a safer investment.
Right. And it's interesting. So for our listeners who might not be aware of a conservation easement, what are the basics of that?
Basically, you're taking a piece of property and pretty much stripping all the development rights off that piece of property. Once you do that, you get you can take either a federal deduction for the value of the amount of value you're stripping from the property. There's still residual value left after you put a conservation easement on it. So it's a great program that enables you to keep a piece of property that you say you've had in the family for a long time, but also capture the tax benefit from doing that.
Okay. So you do an appraisal based on being able to develop it, and then another appraisal based on, all right, now you can walk on it or maybe hunt on it or something, right?
Right, as long as there's no land disturbance. So,
Okay.
I mean, a lot of people, Tyler Perry bought a piece of property in town that had development rights for 1,500 units. He's considered putting that into a conservation easement, which would basically strip him the ability to develop 1,500 residential units. So the appraisal is based on what is the value of each residential unit that he is not going to develop anymore.
Right. And the difference between those two appraisals is your tax credit figure, right?
Correct.
Okay. So that was a good bit easier before, and now it's a little tougher. So these discounts, like I've bought some conservation easements, and I've gotten these great discounts, and but next year I'm not going to get those discounts. Is what you're telling me.
Right. Well, pretty much, yes. Just because in the new rules in Colorado, I think had a real big issue with some people putting some fairly risky conservation easements on there and not having very good appraisal support, and there was a little bit of fraud in there. Probably they had a pretty bad issue with that. So I think Georgia looked at how to protect itself from that. So now the law is you either pick the federal deduction or the state credit, and if you go the state credit route, there's a much bigger process that you have to do to get that approved. so that everybody's comfortable that the proper valuation is on the property.
Okay. Well, our friends in Colorado, though, in their coffee shops, they're have different kinds of things going on, right?
Right, exactly.
There might be some wacky things going on, right?
Right, yeah, you never know what kind of appraisal you're going to get.
Yeah, I know that that market's been crazy too in the industrial market because of their laws they're changing regarding marijuana, right? So, all right, well, let's get off of marijuana, right? Let's get on the movie industry. We'll be right back. We'll have more about the film industry, tax credits, and real estate. I'm Michael Bull. This is the Commercial Real Estate Show. We'll be right back. The Commercial Real Estate Show is brought to you by Bull Realty Commercial Advisors, a great place to do business. Visit bullrealty.com. RealNex, a comprehensive and powerful suite of commercial real estate tools at an incredibly low price. Visit realnex.com. That's RealNex. FIU, Florida International University. Earn your master's in real estate in as little as 10 months without interrupting your career. Visit FIUonline.com. Xceligent, the resource professionals use for commercial real estate information. Visit xceligent.com. That's XCELIGENT. Commercial Search, the source to market and source available properties for sale or lease. Visit commercialsearch.com. For more information on these great companies or for additional videos, podcasts, or articles, visit CREshow.com.